Hello, what is up guys? It's EvilDuoSarm here today with another Blade and Soul video. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my impressions on the game as well as some key things I've picked up on in my experience. My experience represents over 2 years of gameplay, having tried all content available in the game, and yes, my channel may be one of the top Blade and Soul resources on the internet, or worst if you ask Reddit, but I will be doing my best to give a completely unbiased opinion as to the game. This is not sponsored content, just a fellow MMORPG fan out here trying to help you decide if Blade & Soul is worth picking up or returning to. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as a quick overview, Blade & Soul is a predominantly linear single-player experience for your first 30 hours or so of gameplay, followed by a few wide linear regions for endgame progression, along with a heavy focus on multiplayer dungeon crawling. You will select from one of 4 races and 11 classes to partake on your adventure, with some classes being locked to different races. After you complete the story and pick up your first few skills, the first thing you're going to notice about the game is the combat. Blade & Soul features an interesting take on action combat, and while it is not a true action combat system, it feels infinitely more responsive and high-paced than any other system I've played in any other game. The game breaks from the holy trinity of MMORPGs with healers, tanks, and DPS, with all classes being able to do everything in the game. As such, you will find yourself constantly reacting to enemies' attacks to avoid or block the incoming attacks, while unleashing huge amounts of damage on the target using anywhere from simple to complex skill rotations, depending on your class selection. The game does a pretty nice job of laying out which classes will be harder than others at character creation, but if you are really struggling to decide what class to start with, you can actually try any class in the game at max level before committing, so if you do decide to pick up Blade & Soul, make sure you take advantage of that feature. Now, it's a good thing that Blade & Soul has such a fun and interactive combat system because you're going to be doing a lot of fighting in this game. Your endgame content in Blade & Soul consists of running progressively more difficult dungeons with higher gear checks, each one requiring certain minimum damage thresholds to clear. These dungeons reward different character upgrade items that will boost your overall damage or defensive capabilities, allowing you to clear harder and harder dungeons in a continuing cycle. It is a Korean MMO, so be prepared for a gear grind. That being said, the NA and EU publishers have taken steps to remove the grind from the game to make it more accessible for a less grind-oriented player base. Nearly all endgame accessories can be purchased with exchange tokens that you get for clearing the various dungeons, meaning even if you have the worst luck with drops, after enough attempts, you will be able to get the item you've been farming for guaranteed. You never have to worry about running out of gear to be upgrading or items to farm in this game either. If I had to guess, I would say only the top 1% of the player base has all of the gear currently available in the game, and only the top 5 to 10% of the player base can complete all of the content currently available in-game. As a new or returning player, you'll always have something to be working towards or progressing in the game. Content is also added regularly, with even higher still gear requirements. This sometimes gives the game the bad notion of being pay to win, as the only feasible way to stay on top of all of the content is to have been playing for a long time, or to spend money. That being said, a solid 85 to 90% of the content is accessible completely free to play in a few months of casual play as a new or returning player. Now, all of these positives that were just outlined are also a curse. Since everyone needs to rerun content over and over and over to get a desired item, people try to maximize their party damage potential for fast runs. This often leaves new players excluded from playing the game. As such, as a new or returning player, you're going to have to find some nice people or party up with people of similar gear levels who are willing to take the longer path through the content. This is easy enough to do as there are plenty of friendly people in the game chat, or in various Discord servers, like mine, who host dungeon runs with minimal requirements. Just something to be prepared for before you start in this game. The game world itself is divided into several zones, each comprised of linear or wide linear levels. For those of you that have never heard the expression before, a wide linear level is a level that has a specific target but gives you multiple ways to approach that target. Story progression in the game is strictly linear. Your decisions have no impact on the story whatsoever, and every objective is sequential. The story itself will take you to nearly all map locations, so there is very little map exploration to do beyond the story. Because the endgame is so focused on dungeon crawling or the 2 to 3 wide linear areas that are in the game, you will rarely see anyone anywhere else in the world. It does make leveling feel a little bit lonely, as it will likely just be you until you hit one of the dungeon entrances or a wide linear area. However, the Blade & Soul story is best experienced in a single-player fashion anyway, as it is probably the best story I've ever experienced in a free-to-play game. The in-game vistas are pretty solid, however beginning to feel a bit dated graphically. Additionally, performance is solid in single-player and low-population areas, however as soon as you start moving into the more densely populated wide linear areas, as well as dungeons and raids, you will experience FPS drops. This should be remedied by the end of Q4 2019, as the game is being remastered on Unreal Engine 4. UE4 takes advantage of multi-core processing as opposed to the current game engine Unreal Engine 3, which should alleviate a lot of these FPS issues. Additionally, the environment is being enhanced with some destructible elements and visual effects from combat, so all in all, the future looks very bright. The user interface is easy enough for managing basic things like inventory, character profiles, and equipment. However, the game features its own unique take on gear progression that can be confusing. You essentially have the same piece of equipment, like a weapon, for the entirety of your playtime. Whenever you want to improve your gear, you feed in weaker gear that you find from farming dungeons or wide linear regions, and that results in a stronger piece of gear. This seems easy enough in practice, but there are dozens of different paths for the same piece of equipment, none of which are easily explained. I literally have hundreds of hours explaining these different systems on my channel because of how convoluted the system can be for a new player. Once you get the hang of it, however, it is easily manageable, and there are some slick features like build planning and inventory management that are incorporated right into the upgrade system that make it feel responsive. The crafting system in the game is a joke and needs to be reworked for a third time. No experience outside of the crafting professions themselves is rewarded, so there's no benefit to character progression. All of the tradable items that you can craft cost more to make than purchase off of the marketplace, because cash shop items like RNG boxes dilute the market. The secondary crafting system called transmutation is completely shot as well, as some recipes require items that are unobtainable in-game, and some recipes have a chance for failure, which in spite of this still undervalues the item on the marketplace because of the same cash shop RNG boxes that dilute the market. Now, I absolutely hate PvP in any game, and the only game you're ever going to see me actually play PvP is League of Legends. However, Blade Soul has some of the most rewarding and at the same time frustrating PvP in any game. If you love to play PvP in games and outplaying your opponent with skill and strategy, then the 1v1 PvP mode will be for you. If you and a few of your friends want to get into PvP, then there's the 3v3 mode, which has like a unique tag mechanic that lets you tag in and out and help your teammates. It's pretty cool, and I've never seen anything like it in any other game. Both of these modes are completely balanced gear-wise, and the only thing determining who wins a fight is the skill of the players and the specific class matchups. You can literally just complete the story and then play 1v1 and 3v3 for the rest of your time in the game without having to touch another thing. Now, the other two types of PvP, on the other hand, are the most frustrating PvP you will play in any game. Open world PvP is great in concept. You put on an outfit to pick your team and then fight people of the opposing faction for control over objectives. The issue is that the game engine does not support the sheer volume of players in these areas, causing huge frame drops. Additionally, the gear discrepancy between newer and veteran players will result in the newer players being one-shot and having a terrible play experience. This is the same exact thing that happens in 6v6 PvP, as it is gear dependent. Groups of max geared players in the top 1% consistently one-shot lower geared players, making that mode unplayable for the majority of the player base. All in all, if you haven't played Blade & Soul yet, or have been away from it for a while, it is definitely worth picking back up, if only to experience the combat system and story for the first time, or play through some of the new story expansions as a returning player. If you enjoy 1v1 or tag style PvP, Blade & Soul will provide you the most engaging combat experience you've ever had in these arenas. Additionally, with the upcoming upgrade to UE4, the game is going to feel brand new within the coming months, so now is a better time than ever to start easing your way in and stockpiling upgrade materials for the update. However, beyond this, the game has some serious shortcomings in open world content as well as crafting and ease of access for a new player, so at the end of the day, the game is completely free to download and start playing, so give it a try and see if you like it. You have absolutely nothing to lose. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video useful. I hope it gives you an idea if you want to play Blade & Soul or pick it up and add it to your game collection. If you do decide to pick it up, make sure to check out some of the other videos on my channel. I have a very robust collection of guides on the game. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you stay updated when new content comes out. And I will see you at the next video. Peace.